in as much as I struggle with that as a human, I sort of try to bring that into the role in the way that the disciples are struggling for an answer, and I can't quite give them one.
Well, I'm on the set of The Chosen, which is pretty surreal, and what's even more surreal, sitting opposite the actor playing Jesus, Jonathan Roumie. Great to be with you.
Thanks, Andrew.
And I've got to say, actually, probably more appropriately, Dr. Jonathan Roumie.
Oh, yes.
With your honorary doctorate that you just received. Congratulations.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was awesome.
It's been a big year for you. I mean, you've had the K-Love Fan Awards you've just won recently. And I mean, even beyond that, you've met the Pope a couple of times, I believe. So you've had an incredible rise to fame over the last few years.
Yeah, it's been pretty extraordinary. I give all credit to God, because if you look at all the things that have happened, there's no way I could have planned this myself.
Yeah, it's pretty astronomical.
Yeah.
And I guess that's you've kind of half answered my next question anyway. But I was going to ask you, how do you kind of balance, the accolades and the experiences that you've had over the last few years with what Jesus would teach around humility and service and that sort of thing? Like, how do you kind of keep that in check? I
just listen to what he said, and I try to follow it as best as I can. I don't always succeed. Maybe if I get 70% of the time of succeeding in following his precepts, then that's a pretty good day. But the goal for me is always to aspire to that, to aspire to sainthood and the life that I think God is calling me to lead.
So good. It must be interesting for you. I mean, obviously you're playing the part of Jesus, but then also, as you're saying, you're trying to live out the life and principles of Jesus in real life.
Yeah.
It must be really interesting, I guess, to be able to understand that from a very different perspective than what most people would.
I think there's an intensity to that. There's an intensity to the scrutiny that I take over, with his words, and the pains I take to pour over his guiding principles, because I'm reading them, for every script that I get, and so I'm sort of forced to spend a lot more time with him than maybe if I hadn't been cast, And I think that's probably by design. I think God probably knew that he was calling me to something pretty substantial, and that the only way I would actually get the lesson if he gave me the opportunity to play Jesus, because then he'd know I'd have to spend so much more time with him than I would have of my own volition. So I kind of, and I'm grateful for that, because it's been, everything has kind of changed for me, personally, professionally, spiritually, the last several years.
It's wonderful. I'm curious to understand the impact. I know in Australia we've just had the opportunity to watch season 4.
Yeah.
And particularly episode 3 and 4 were the big talking points for the audience.
Yeah.
I'm keen to know how that's impacted you. I mean, it was a really profound thing. And for me, even just watching and I guess unpacking, what does it actually all mean? But how has it impacted you personally, I guess, acting that role, but then I guess overlaying that with you as a person?
So I'm assuming you specifically mean that dealing with, a death of a character,
Yes.
and then the ramifications of not having prevented that.
Exactly, that's right. Your Jesus could have stopped it, but he chose not to.
And I think that's a question we wrestle with in real life. And I think, Scripture doesn't tell us Jesus healed everyone that ever asked him, or that he healed everyone he encountered who needed healing. I'm sure, I think it's safe to say that there were many people that didn't get healed for whatever reason. And I think with that, the position we take in the story, I think reflects the mystery of God, in that we don't necessarily know why some things happen to some people and other things happen to other people. And, the question of why did Judas turn against Jesus, but Jesus called him. So didn't he know? Did he just call him for the purpose that he played in his ministry, or was there, but we're given free will as humans. So why, that's the big question we're asked of ourselves when considering Jesus. and his ministry and who he was. And I think this is one of those moments where, you know, it's the question that we all want to know. And I think the way we answer it in the story is kind of the way that I sort of understand it in my own life whenever there are situations that arise that I don't understand. And I why this person and not that one? Why this healing and not that one? So in as much as I struggle with that as a human, I sort of try to bring that into the role, you know, in the way that the disciples are struggling for an answer, and I can't quite give them one.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch that particular season and to, I guess, wrestle with that myself. I think it's been portrayed really beautifully.
Thank you.
And I think juxtaposed with that is the whole idea of humour. And I mean, Jesus has a wonderful sense of humour, you know, just little quirky things that he says and just keeps people on their toes.
I think he would have had to have had a sense of humor to be able to tolerate those guys. You know?
That's right. How has it been for you, just I guess, understanding and unpacking that for yourself?
You know, I think it's a reflection of the fullness of his humanity. There's no way around humor or fun or joy or dancing at a party or winking at people. You know, it's just part of human expression. And because we haven't seen it before, because nobody's ever explored the day-to-day or the mundane, so to speak, of the daily life of the disciples and Jesus, nobody's seen it. You know, it's never been the aim. Because we were probably the first project to ever do a long-form telling of Jesus's ministry, not even his entire life, but just the 3 years he was, you know, in his public ministry, active in his public ministry. We have the opportunity through the lens of the way we tell this story to explore those things and make Jesus and the disciples make their humanity relatable in a way that people haven't seen, but people immediately identify with and are impacted by. And I think that's why it's been so profoundly impactful on culture as a whole around the world.
Yeah, well, you're certainly doing a great job of it. And
Thank you.
we wish you all the very best with the balance of season 5 and
Thank you.
more to come as well. So thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.